domestic violence survivor. Originally, with my story, what happened was I thought I met the man of my dreams. I met him through my high school reunion, somebody that I was connected through classmates, and eventually it was something that I thought hit off. So, you know, as time went by, it was certain patterns that I was seeing. But when I started seeing the patterns, I started ignoring them because to me it seemed like an individual, like he was somebody that was hurt growing up through family, through friends. And I thought I can be that void and feel that void that he had, to take away that pain. I ended up leaving home from Miami and moving to Orlando, and the relationship got really intense, to the point where it was a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of emotional abuse, a lot of physical abuse, having a split lip, hair ripped out of my head, to the point where I was dragged by a vehicle, and I was even raped in the relationship. And I remember at those moments, I really told myself, like, this isn't love. This is not what it's about. I can't make an excuse anymore for someone that is far beyond gone, who already exhibited behaviors of a narcissist. And I had to tell myself, I have two children who at the time were 2 and 3. I had to get up and leave. The final point for me to leave, and the crazy thing about it is there was several moments that raised red flags that said, hey Christina, you just need to go, you gotta run. And I didn't go. But when I moved up there and started my life with him, thinking that things would get better, I had a great career. I was working with children with special needs. I had 10 years under my belt. I was a Special Olympics coach, a job coach. I did so many things in the community for special needs, through the school board. And it ended up being one day where he called the police on me because he knew I was getting ready to leave. I guess he sensed it in his spirit. The police answered to what was supposed to be a well-check call, and it wasn't a well-check call. And the police ended up beating me up in front of my kids, and I was facing a case of battery on a Leo, when in actuality I was the victim of police brutality. And it was a case that I fought for 5 years, and a lot of lawyers were telling me, just give up, you're gonna do time in prison, because police officers always win the case. And I ended up going to trial. The first trial didn't go through because they had someone in the jury that didn't belong, so they reset it. But I was making drives from Miami to Orlando periodically, maybe like 3 times, 4 times in a month, to the point where I was even getting warrants for my arrest because my car was breaking down on the highway from missing the court hearings, trying to make it. But I know my final court hearing, I was told to prepare for the worst, prepare to send my kids off to relatives, prepare for DCF to get involved, prepare for the inevitable. And I remember going to trial, and after, the jury deliberated, the trial started at 8 a.m. and the trial was finally over at 7 p.m. and the deliberation was over around 8 o'clock. And the crazy thing about it was most of the jury had loved ones of law enforcement officers, people that were married to law enforcement officers. And by the grace of God, I stood up. They asked me to stand up for the verdict, and I was found not guilty. And, it was such an overwhelming joy, and I knew how much the presence of God was over my life when that happened. And it humbled me, but it also showed me that there was a greater purpose in my life. So, even after that situation, I settled back in Miami. I was still going through a lot. My ex-husband was still stalking me. He was still, doing things to make himself feel like he was important. My car was vandalized. My car had been stolen. I had started walking to school. None of my family wanted to do anything with me, help me watch my kids. To the point, like, now I was walking to school and just basically trying to get through in life and just really, really push, even though everything else was going against me. Restraining orders, they weren't granting it. The only thing that I was granted was a divorce. I was publicly humiliated. My ex-husband took pictures of me and posted them on pornographic websites, posted stuff on Facebook. He wrote a book about me and actually conducted and did a stage play to actually publicly humiliate me. So, everything that he did was designed to break me down, and, it didn't. And, there was times I had moments and bouts of depression because I didn't understand how somebody could be so evil. But, it took, the strength of God to just awaken something in me and tell me, like, you're far more greater than this. There's a purpose in you. This is why this is happening to you. So, in the midst of all that, being a single mom, you learn to push and you learn to keep moving. By then, I didn't have a support system because he managed to just scare everybody away. And, it had came to moments where I had to, go to work. I'm living at shelters, domestic violence shelters. And finally, I was able to, obtain my own place. But in the process of it, I had no support system to watch my kids. And it put me in a very delicate situation one day where I had to leave my kids unattended, and I ended up losing my kids. And at that very moment when that happened, I really realized that I took a lot of mess from that relationship. By then, it really helped me understand the consequences of when God shows you something, when he's telling you to abort something and to leave something, what can happen to you if you don't follow, his advice. And discipline always follows, but discipline doesn't always mean that, God is angry with you. It's just a form of correction, and he's trying to protect you and redirect you in the right way. And, my advice is to other women, when you see a man starts to exhibit these signs, manipulation, signs of jealousy, all the signs, like, even if you don't know the signs that a man would exhibit, look at domestic violence wheels online. They give you behaviors and stuff of somebody who has narcissistic behavior, and it'll give you all the characteristics of somebody that's very abusive. I recommend that. And, to me, abusive relationships were normal. Like, that wasn't the first one with my ex-husband. I was in other ones, but the one with my ex-husband happened to supersede far beyond what the other ones were. And, it taught me that life is short, and that in a blink of an eye, you can lose the very things you love trying to hold on and help somebody who doesn't love themselves. So I had to learn to love me like a rose.